for my 15th birthday, I invited all my friends around to my house to watch The Triplets of Belleville together, which I don't know if you've seen it. It's this, in my mind, legendary animation, like French animation about this guy that tries to do the Tour de France and sort of gets involved with like the mafia. It's like a very weird kind of movie. I watched it when I was 14 and I was like, I didn't know movies could be like this. Looking back, it's like a pretty popular animation. It's not like that esoteric, but it's, I don't know, for what I had seen at the time, which was like Disney and Pixar stuff, I saw this thing and I was like, this is amazing. And I showed it to my friends and I'll never forget, like I looked over my shoulder to like my homies and I was just like, right? Like, how cool is this? And my friend was just like, that was the worst movie I've ever seen. Just hated it. And I sort of just like, I was like, oh, okay, cool. Hey, so my name is Chris Dakana. I'm a South African skateboarder and photographer. I've been living in Korea for a little over 10 years. And yeah, this is the studio that I run with my wife, Kelly. If you haven't yet seen her video, there is another one for you to watch. I started with photography 15-ish years ago. When I was growing up in South Africa, I started watching movies that I really liked and really started to care for. I started to get a sense of just how sort of powerful certain visuals could be and how affecting they could be. For my 21st birthday, my family and friends like all got together and put in some money to buy me my first camera, which was really sweet and a really big surprise. And I just kind of never put it down after that. What was the first camera? First camera I got was a Nikon D3000, I think it was. And I still shoot Nikon today. So I've kind of just sort of stuck it out with that. When I got that first camera, like I had no sense of like longevity in mind. I wasn't thinking like, oh yeah, here's my career. My older brother shot some photos, but he made films and things like that. And I always looked at that. I was like, this is the coolest thing ever, like to be able to make these like goofy little movies. I mean, all my friends and I, we grew up with skateboarding and punk and surfing and just all these cultures that I think are like fairly restless and are always sort of creating things just for the sake of creating things. And so I think being a part of that definitely was something of a push for me, even if it's just like taking a mission on a windy day to go try to find a place to surf. There was an ambition there to go out and do things and find things. I mean, I came from like the decisive moment, like culture of photography, especially with street photography, walking around trying to take images of these precise moments that like, wow, like how amazing that this moment could come together like that. But it also got to a point where it became a little less satisfying over time because it was like, I wasn't really too sure what I was doing this for. I'm a working photographer here in Korea. That's, how I pay the bills. It is like a creative outlet, but it's also often like you're shooting to spec. I work in fashion largely. And so a lot of the fashion imagery I take is quite glossy or clean or digital with that digital sheen to it. A lot of my personal work is a lot less clear or readily understandable. Like there was a time when I was like really like interested in action and trying to capture these exciting balletic moments. I think a lot of that sort of reflected how I felt living here in Korea at the time. I really wanted to live here, but I always felt uncertain if I could. I was hustling through the city, like walking fast, like just shooting tons of photos, like trying to capture these kind of exciting moments of people I didn't know and people I didn't talk to. And they were just sort of these like passing blurs in my life. As I like have become a little bit more established here and like I don't sort of feel like I'm in jeopardy really anymore. Life has just slowed down in a pleasant way where I can sort of like walk around and enjoy my time and not feel like my days are numbered. And that has, I think, affected the kind of photographs that I take now and the things that I'm interested in. It's just reflected my experience with living here in Korea from insecure, exciting and fun to much more secure and much less worried about suddenly getting kicked out of the country. Going hand in hand with that is just like a sort of like slower appreciation for what life actually is. Over the last couple of years, I've been spending a lot of time in, I guess, suburban areas in Seoul. So not the high-rise apartments, but not the super like busted up houses, more villas, more of the sort of low-rise suburban areas where people might not live forever, but chances are they've lived for a long time. Little by little, I've sort of just come to appreciate what it is that I'm seeing and appreciate the world for what it is, not for what I can sort of force it to be within the frame of a photograph, if that makes sense. I'm a little bit more interested these days in trying to photograph what grabs my attention in the world, like the world for how it is in maybe a very slightly heightened or ideally a slightly magical way if possible. So over the next year, I'm working on one project that has sort of come out of my spending time in all these suburbs and about the experience of places where people have lived for a long time. While I've been figuring out this kind of like new way of shooting and finding new stuff that I'm interested in, I shot a lot of stuff that didn't really fit anywhere or like didn't really, it was kind of hard to I was exploring, I was trying to find something new. So I shot a lot of photos that felt disconnected. I'm trying to make a project out of it throughout this year of 12 booklets or zines that I will start releasing from January of next year. It's going to be using all these images in pairs, so like diptych format, and I'm going to also probably try and write a story to go along with it in 12 chapters. So each one of the booklets would have one of the chapters. And I'm not a writer, but I'm sort of like willing to try. It's the way that I find myself connecting with people through my work currently is there's what you're trying to communicate through your work and then what you communicate about your work. And I'm trying to pay a bit more of an even attention to both. I mean, I've started making stuff on YouTube and I sort of more enjoyably have started writing quite a bit more about it. I've just been putting out like a newsletter on Substack where I'm explaining some of the like aspects of my commercial work, but also my sort of personal projects and personal work that I'm interested in. I'm not like walking around saying like this photo means this thing, but I'm a little bit more like, yeah, like this is what I was going through and I took this photo and this is like the context within which it lies, and learning to communicate in those ways. I've just been trying to communicate about what it is that I'm doing has been almost just as enjoyable as trying to communicate through the work. What I have in my head has to be articulated in a better way. And so yeah, like maybe that's just the best term for it, is like being held accountable to what it is that I sort of believe in. I can look at certain films from, I don't know, 50, 60, 70 years ago, and maybe they're not as sort of technically adept, or there's a sort of roughness around the edges of the movie that you're watching, but they're about something and that thing connects. Who cares about the roughness around the edges when the thing that you're seeing is like making you feel sort of less alone? Like it makes you feel like there's somebody else out there who understands this whole experience so well that they're able to communicate it through their chosen medium. Technical stuff aside, there's that thing of like being able to connect with people through the stuff that you make and you share. One of the main reasons that I do what I do is because I've experienced what it is to enjoy something that somebody's made, whether it be a film, a novel, someone else's photos, and just through experiencing it feel sort of less alone in this world. Occasionally, some piece of art, some like beautiful piece of literature or whatnot, will be made and I will read it and understand it, and I'll be like, yes, like this person has gone through what I have gone through, and they've been able to articulate it in like such a magnificent way. And that makes me feel sort of edified, like I'm a part of a bigger community of people and human experience. And so for myself too, like I hope to make things and I hope to photograph things that other people can connect with as well. I think the only way to do that is to photograph stuff that is true to you and interesting to you, and hopefully find some group of people, whether it be large or small, that it just makes them feel like there's something to connect to as well. Just aren't nearly as high quality as what you would, where there are technical aspect